All right, folks, so it's Behind the Sermon with Pastor Steve and me, Sean, and we're talking about your recent sermon, and it was on divorce. I know, it's a really tough topic, but
Really
you're...
uplifting, edifying. It was edifying.
Well, but you taught a lot. In fact, you went overtime, technically.
Both services.
Both services, and how could you possibly have anything else to talk about? I think you do, though. Why don't you share?
In fact, in the first service, Jason cut out the closing song. Did he do that in the second service too?
No, we did play it second service.
Because that's second service. You can go longer. It doesn't matter, right? Yeah.
I think so.
It doesn't matter as much.
Yeah. I mean, he still dismissed people that needed to go.
So why do we do divorce? Well, because it's in the Bible, and it's in the Bible in Deuteronomy 24. And Deuteronomy 24, as I mentioned in the sermon, but I'll review it for you, is like one of the key, most important Old Testament passages on divorce. It's so important that the Lord Jesus in Matthew 19, it's also in Mark and Luke, points back to it and exegetes it. It explains what was really meant, why Moses said this and what the intent was and all that. So Deuteronomy 24 is one of the key or bedrock passages in the Bible on divorce. So I thought, we're doing a sermon series in divorce. Divorce is kind of a problem in our land, huh? Yeah.
Yes.
So, maybe it's a good idea to do a thing on divorce. Also, I thought, well, if you don't preach about things like divorce, then it starts to creep up and it starts to happen more and more in your church. So is it happening in our church? No, but that's good. So let's keep preaching about it so it doesn't happen, right? Also, I was eager for the opportunity to correct what I think are some intentionally misleading statistics about divorce in America and in the church, especially in the church. They're trying to say 50% of all marriages, and I think it's more like 30, end in divorce. And then they're trying to say, and you Christians, you're just as bad. 50% of your marriages end in divorce. So see, you're a bunch of hypocrites, and the Bible doesn't really work, and Jesus doesn't really change people. You're imagining that. And I was glad to say, no, actually, there are better numbers on that. Ed Stetzer is a good guy on numbers. He's not a good guy on everything, but he's a good guy on numbers. And he's come up with about 10.5% of regularly attending Christian marriages end in divorce. So I was happy to clarify.
It's still really high, though.
Yeah, well, but I was happy to clarify it a little bit. That might be the same number that you found in Israel in the first century. I don't know. So also, I would have liked a little bit more time to address the subject of, we talked about domestic violence a little bit. I thought it was important to touch on that. But then people tend to jump from that to, well, there are other kinds of violence. There's emotional violence. There's psychological violence. Right. All right, maybe you could say that. But then everything has just become grounds for divorce. So we can't go there. I didn't have the time to fit that one in. We went over time as it is. But I wanted to qualify. You can't start saying everything is a form of violence. And so I can divorce my man because, he
XYZ.
Yeah, XYZ.
And then you were just right back to where they were in the Old Testament times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So there you have it.
That was great, Steve. Thanks for coming into the studio and sharing a little bit more with us about the sermon.